Listeners of the T.R.O.N podcast, this is your host, Rashad Woods. I've always had the pleasure and continue to have the pleasure of talking to successful people from all walks of life. This man epitomizes it. He's been a part of 7 different startups, and now he passes along not just his business acumen, but also helping you with your personal journey along the way. The road to success can be often lonely, and it's good to know that people like Benoy Tamang are available to provide coaching and assistance to aspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome, Rashad. Thanks for having me here. Happy to share whatever I've got.
Yeah,
I want to help.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. So can you give some background about yourself for the purpose of the show?
Yeah, it's quite easy. Not only because my dad was in the Army, which is the antithesis of a small business, massive, hundreds of thousands of employees, think about it.
Yeah.
And it repelled me, right? It programmed me to say, nah, I don't want that.
Right.
Ultimately, I decided that I want to be a business capitalist pig, if you don't mind. So let me go do that.
Yeah.
Because I don't like all the politics and such. And so from a long time ago, I've got many stories to tell you. I wanted to vote for the underdog. I wanted to be the supporter because I hated bullies. I hate bullies. Right. And I even thought, hey, if I bully the bullies, does that make me a bully? Because I'm trying to help the guys getting bullied.
Yeah.
Anyway, so because of that, got into the software side, the tech side, and ultimately started up quite a few businesses. Lots of pain, lots of lost money, lots of gray hairs, but I wouldn't have done it any different. And
Beautiful.
my sweetheart is still with me, Rashad, after all this crap I put her through. And so, and people say, so you're a successful man. I say, I'm absolutely successful. I have 5 grown, beautiful kids who, because of Angela, love each other and they still want to hang out with their old mom and pop. So that makes me the richest man around, right?
It's beautiful because, all the stories that I hear, it's about the person, right? Because that road, to success can often be very lonely, and you have to surround yourself with the right people, and you have to work when nobody's looking. And I know you know this, and I do a podcast. I haven't created any softwares. I'm not going to act like I've created something, that's changed the world. I didn't create Coca-Cola. But you literally have to sacrifice time away from family. And it is not, if you want it to be successful, it's going to require things of you that you didn't know you had in you.
That's right. And in fact, I'm a Jesus-loving, God-fearing man. And I've always said that if you truly, truly want to unbury those talents you've been given, if you really, really want to fully show the God-given gifts, start a business. Because you dig deep. You have to go hard.
Yeah.
You have to eat humble pie. You have to ask for help.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that. I'm not knocking anyone who's an employee, and that's great. You clock in and you clock out. And yes, you got to put up with crap and you got to do hard things. But until the livelihood of your family rests on your shoulders, on something that you took the risk on, you truly haven't dug deep to figure out what you're truly made of. And that's when the gifts really get sculpted, cultivated, and earned. So
I haven't reached that stage yet. I'm like I said, I'm just a host, right? So what, in the time that I've been doing this, I've talked to enough people and given enough of my free time that I just got a small taste of it, right? And so what the journey I noticed with you is that, it's not just the finished final product. You're giving back to, I saw your inspiring story that you did with David C. Kelly, where you said the woman took on a sales position role and she was struggling. And in a typical environment, it would have been, you're not meeting your quota. We're going to have a meeting and this is your 90-day review, yada, yada. And he was like, I didn't make a mistake hiring you. And it was like the elephant, just the weight got off that woman's back. That's amazing.
Yeah, that is a beautiful example of a client of mine. We're still working together. It's been 5 years as he's grown the business. And he is a wonderful example of how you truly lift the person and build them up. Too many times, always like, you're not cutting it. What's going on? What's happening? Versus, what can I do to help you succeed?
Right.
Who says that? If you had more people that gave that level of support, that level of safety, that level of encouragement, who couldn't rise? Too often it's the sneering bully that says, "You're not good enough,
Yeah.
buckle up,"
Right.
right? No, I believe that you can lift them by saying, "How can I help you succeed?"
So that leads to my next question, right? So there's this increased awareness of I don't want to say, I don't want to swing too far in one direction of actually approaching that method. But a lot of people use the previous method because that's what they went through, so to speak. The Gordon Gecko phase, right? Where it's just like, hey, you know, stiffen that upper lip as you're on for a wild ride, so to speak. I'm giving the PG version of that. When is that applicable versus when it's not? Because some people can take it. Some people can't. It diversifies itself amongst different people.
I have an answer for you.
Yeah.
I believe that every individual needs a tailored approach. Stay
Right.
with me. But the most important fundamental underlying principle is that when you administer the medicine to help them heal and recover,
Mhm.
it can be tough medicine, it can be soft medicine.
Right.
But the leader, the person administering, has to be in full clarity mode, unemotional with the negative frustration and irritation, because their own fears and insecurities then manifest
That is
in.
true.
So it comes out like crap, like you stink. Versus Rashad, I know you can do this. I believe in you. I've seen what you've done, and I don't know what's going on right now. Let me know. I'll help support you.
Mhm.
But I expect you to hit this mark, which you agreed to do.
Right.
Now that it's straight, direct, lovingly administered versus what the crap, Rashad? You disappoint me again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Dude. So the answer is where you're coming from
Right.
is very important because you can give tough love. And
Of
some
course.
people go, man, I needed that. Thanks. I said, you're welcome.
Right.
Some, you have to be a little more ginger.
Right.
But the fact that you're coming from a place of clarity here
Mhm.
and in your heart, they can feel it.
Yeah.
They can feel it.
It's wonderful. And I've also been curious about this question because people bring you on as the advisor, right? And oftentimes it's like, people defer to their doctor, like, hey, somebody's the coach. I'm not saying this to you personally. When is there a applicable time from the person being advised to push back on the coach, so to speak, right? Because you can be in kind of a subjective mode, so to speak, where you're just like, okay, I'm taking this, I'm taking this, I'm taking this. How does that relationship dynamics work? Because the coach, whether it's you or someone else, has to be able to take criticism and feedback too. Oftentimes people in hierarchy powers don't respond well to the person beneath them. Like, listen, man, this ain't cutting it from you.
Yeah, I love this question. So it's a very good question. I'm going to answer it with a couple of three legs of a stool.
Right.
Number one, I've a long time ago come to the realization that an expert, no matter how great they are, could fulfill the role of a consultant, a mentor, and a coach. So if that expert is a consultant, say, hey, Rashad, dude, we got this huge problem. I'm going to pay you big bucks. Solve it for us, will you? And you'll do it in a jiffy, while we would have struggled because we have no expertise. Number two, I've also learned that ultimately the individual being helped, that's the right word, may need at sometimes a consultant role versus a mentor role, which is, hey, I've been there before. I recommend you cast that line with the hook in that part of the pool, in that riverbed, in that river, because you're most likely to get a bite there.
Right,
so
right.
The consultant does it. The mentor tells you, based on the experience, do that. And number three, the coach says, what are your ideas on how to catch that fish?
Right.
Okay. Right. The reason I'm sharing these three legs, one is, the definition. Number two, you're not always in an advisor. People say is do this, do this, do this. No. And from my perspective, I love the coaching role the most because I'll say, dude, it would be presumptuous of me to come in and give you advice, for I do not know the full context of where you've been, what the relationships are, how deep the problem is. So what do you think you should do? What are the options?
Right.
Okay. So Definition, coaching says, I don't know the answers. You
Yes.
actually are closer to solving the problem yourself. And I believe in you. You can come
Right.
up with that. And then number three, some decision gets made, usually by the client, the coachee.
Mhm.
And if they say, I'm going to change that, I'm going to go this direction, I said, go for it
Right.
because you carry the responsibility,
Yes.
you carry the experience.
Right.
And if I say something and they push back, it's still your decision.
Right.
Do it. Do it. And if it's wrong, it was still the right thing to do because that's what you needed to learn
Right.
in order to come back and say, you know what, should have done it the other way.
Yeah,
Good on you.
and the thing is about it is that experience is the greatest lesson, right? Experience is the absolute greatest lesson, and I think as long as you come in with good intentions, it's okay to try and experiment and fail. One of the things that I was curious about when it comes to tech, startups in particular, because you hear about them all the time. Some do really well, some do medium sized, some fail. Unfortunately, there's a lot more failures than successes, but that's just how the world operates and functions. Do you sit back and say now that, like, particularly when it comes to AI, that sometimes everything pivots too much in one direction and then it gets saturated and then it can dilute, like, right now everything's artificial intelligence, everybody's the rush to do it. Do you see, well, kind of a mirror image of hey, everybody's trying to get in this space and maybe everybody's not suited for it?
Yes to everything you said. It is a bit of a feeding frenzy. At the same time, it is new and the novelty is exciting. At the same time, I've also learned that in a typical land grab, the first two may make the majority of the dent,
Right.
and everybody is a has-been, uh, right? And then at the same time, there are beautiful business principles that cannot be short circuited. You got to pay the dues. You got to do these things. And for me, the biggest thing that I currently worry about, similar to when the smartphone came out, is what the implications are for the human psychology,
Right.
the health,
Right.
the mental burden
Right.
that any new technology has,
Yes.
right? And we've seen it in kids, my kids, the younger kids particularly, how much the technology enables and disables at the
No
same time.
question.
So AI is great. Let's go and make sure that we are prudent, that we put guardrails around it, that
Absolutely.
we make inroads and make businesses do it.
Right.
But let's just not just do it for the sheer dollar only, right?
Without question, and because it's funny because when I talk to my kids, they don't know what a blockbuster is. They don't know what just because you order something on your smartphone does not mean that the process of making a pizza got any quicker, right? So
Yeah.
you just have the immediate satisfaction that you didn't have to call and wait on phones and things like that. The actual process behind the scenes, they still have to do the dough, put the toppings on it, still has to cook for 30 some odd minutes, et cetera, et cetera. But people have instant gratification now when it comes to what's in front of them, and they expect it now because they got an email or a pop up saying that your order's now been submitted. So it certainly does. There needs to be some social guardrails about what is actually capable in real time and what is and what isn't.
Yeah.
And what I was also curious about too was that when companies overinvest, and there is the inevitable bubble drop, like streaming. Everybody went all in on streaming. Then you realize that they had to pull back, and then they merged and they acquired because they couldn't. They got their lunch taken, so to speak. How do you temper the expectations of founders when it comes to they want to conquer the world, but they haven't got an MVP yet?
Beautiful. I think the answer is you never want to dull the energy, the motivation, the drive. You never want to take the essence of someone who wants to make a big impact away from them.
Yeah.
That would be horrible. It's like popping the dreams of the young 3-year-old for Santa Claus. No, make it something huge.
Right.
Make it magical.
Right.
As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a whatever.
Right.
Do it. At the same time, what you have to realize is that because the odds are against you, when inevitable failures, road bumps come along, do not blame yourself as being a failure. Mm-hmm. Do not start whipping yourself into, I suck, I shouldn't have done this. Because it is a high-risk game that we play.
Without question.
Right? Profit is proportional to risk taken.
Yeah.
So guess what? It's going to be super highs and super lows.
Right.
Do
Do
not
not
dull
know.
the motivation,
Yeah.
but do understand that when things happen, it's not about you. It's not about you.
That's
We
wonderful.
applaud it.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people, and this isn't certainly a knock on the successful people that have been on this that are on the show and on the host. People look at Shark Tank and they, it's almost like if you haven't been beat up by somebody like who's trying to do something successful for you, then you're not getting to the place that you needed to be. That's not to say you shouldn't pay your dues. That's not to say you shouldn't, go through the muck and the mud, so to speak. But there's almost like a Simon Cowell effect where you have to have the screaming coach at you, that you can't sing. And then, the feast or famine kind of thing, the good ones will stick this out. Like, and I say this and I'm going to stop. Like, you ever seen the movie escapes me, Whiplash? Like, the music when there's a drummer, like he's going to be the jerk music composer. And then they'll get to that level. And the ones that can't play just won't survive, so to speak.
Yeah. So now you're talking to a guy whose dad was in the army. And you're talking to a firstborn Asian son. So I'm used to all of the beatings and all of the yellings. It's just part of the makeup.
Yeah.
And so again, some people need it, love it,
Yeah.
will rise up to it.
Right.
The newer generation of younger professionals are not as resilient. And I'll say that
that is true
with no hesitation.
That is true.
It may cause a backlash. I may get lots of negative crap about it, but there is a reality to today's DNA group, which it's a different approach. So back to that. There are people who can take it, and there are more younger people who cannot take it nowadays. And so I don't think that it's bad that they can't take it. And I don't think it's good that they can take it if they're the old school.
Right.
It's just the way it is. Yeah. I've now just said it just is. It just is. It's easy. It's easy to poke fun and say, a weakling or whatever. And no, it's just different. They have more creative juices in a different way. They're more sensitive and caring.
It's funny because, like the basketball coaches that I had, I'm like, they couldn't play, the things that were said, you're like, I would never let them say that to my kid. But I'm like, man, there were, it was, it'd be some, I'll keep it PG. It would be some choice words between me and that coach. But like, it was normal for me. You just had to deal with it, and then you're telling, your dad, he'd be like, listen, son, you better, you got to deal with it, but that prepared you for life. That prepared you for, to navigate difficult people and not get emotionally charged about the situation. Because to your point, when you start feeding your family, when you say, I'm going to, quit my job to go on this venture and it's going to be lean for these couple months, AKA years, you could get divorced. They could walk out the door on you. It's not, the stakes are real, and that's what this show is cultivated about, right? Like, I'm not moving human hearts on this show. I'm not performing surgery. And I'm not making anybody, I'm not creating a new medicine. I just get to talk to people all day. So I'm like, I get to just do this little safe space. But for people like yourself, you went all in and said, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And I will say this, it is still the most underdog role, I believe, in the world to start something from scratch. Number two, it requires a level of grit and resilience that is very demanding, but that also, number three, shines your gifts, your talents that you've got. For we all have them. We have them. And so for me, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Go dig through that Shawshank tunnel of crap.
Yes.
Because, you'll really, really understand who you are. And I think you actually chronologically earlier get to a level of sanity.
You go, no question.
This is what life is.
Right.
Life isn't about always proving. Life is about saying, I'm great enough, not just good enough. Yes. Life is, I can see, and now I look at retail, new businesses opening up, and I can see them with compassion in my eyes and go, I hope they work out.
Yes.
I hope it works out. It's rough. There's a level of all that you get sooner having gone through that tunnel.
Right.
And I think it's worth it. I absolutely think it's worth it. I wish everyone started the business.
And I think that kind of segues into my next question. Why is it, and I don't slam teachers or the educational system, but I always want to know, what is it about the foundations of the educational system that has programmed people to just follow this linear path of go to elementary school, go to junior high, get your diploma, go to 4-year school, and everything else will work itself out. Don't worry, we'll sold you on this dream of any respective country, not just in here in America, respectively. Why has it not transitioned to get people to think like that? That there's not a pot of gold waiting for you and a gold watch and a retirement party, so to speak.
Yeah. You have to realize at the same time, Rashad, they started that after the depression of the 1920s
No
and
question.
30s. And so ultimately, then everyone looked for stability where they didn't have to do hand to mouth.
Right.
And ultimately, some sequence that provided safety and predictability
Yes.
towards an end they worked hard for. And you've heard that whole thing about, hard times make soft
Yeah.
men. Hard times make hard men, hard times.
Yes.
They do hard things, right? That whole cycle created this entire, from cradle to grave, a level of programming that said, go do these things, get your degree, then clock in.
Yes.
And we have now reached the age and the stage where no, that doesn't work anymore. And not at all. Along the way, those even younger ones trained at school teachers and such, they were trained by their predecessors to follow the same line. And we're saying, whoa, 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 stop. As a parent, no.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
Right.
I'd rather you tell me what my child is not doing,
Right.
so that I can help, I can augment. Don't be scared of me, teachers. They would be scared of me when I went to parent-teacher meetings, and I'd say, no, don't roll over and give him a higher grade. Tell me what's going on. I'd have to bring it out of them because they were scared in case a parent yelled at them, the teachers, right?
Right.
So along the way, so now we've reached the stage, no. And I have my youngest boy, I said, if you don't go to college, I don't think you need it because you got a great mind.
Right.
Keep learning.
Yes.
Keep progressing. Keep testing. Keep, experimenting your way, and you'll be much better off. And make it all about your own business, your own way of feeding your family. Don't follow that. Just figure it out. It's more fun anyway.
Absolutely. I'm kind of paraphrasing. There was an Orson Welles movie. The name escapes me. I saw the quote is pretty famous. It said, in Italy they had the Borgias. They had 200 years of bloodshed, but they also had Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and the Renaissance. And he said, Switzerland, they had 200 years of prosperity. And what did they invent? The cuckoo clock, right? So, you're just like, the muck can create beautiful things, right? Sometimes even when you don't see it. And so that's what this podcast is all about, right? So, you can get preconditioned. So for people who are listening, even when you say that you have a filter, you start creating a filter system. Like this show has made me a better person because now I realize that when I get to talk to people like yourself, I have to be linear focused on the task at hand. So every piece of outside noise that used to distract me, I don't have that anymore. And then even the people you talk to, the paths that they took, you realize how much time people waste on trivial things, right? Yeah. That matter absolutely nothing, right? But it feeds your ecosystem or your ecosystem, so to speak, because it gives you some sort of gratification for whatever reasons they may be.
Yeah. And you're a dad of 3 beautiful kids. What we have is a responsibility to share with them what the transitioning trappings of success is defined as, and then at the same time show them a better way.
Without question.
We got to show them a better way. We got to give them hope and support, and you can do it. And here we're gonna. And while you're inside the walls of my house, I'm gonna share some skills, and I'm gonna make you earn it and develop it inside the safety of this house.
Yes.
And so that when you leave, you can conquer any of the changing dynamics that's happening so fast that I didn't have. But I'm going to give you all the tools.
And I think that because of the positivities of internet and social media, now people have kind of got off that sort of wagon where they're like, pause, hold the brakes a little bit. I'm going to explore deeper than what's been shown in front of me. Maybe in your early stages, you were looked at as the outlier because there's supposed to be that Citibank job or that Wall Street job, or but now people aren't looked at as outliers when they say, I'm going to go this path because I know that's not meant for me, right?
That's right.
And people
That's
now
right.
have kind of woke up, so to speak, and the internet has done a great job of that, of letting people explore different things, and that's a beautiful thing.
And that's why I say I'm not labeling the younger generation as not having enough resilience because they're more sensitive. I think we need more sensitivity to navigate what's going on.
Yeah.
Because the old age Neanderthals of the past would have just bludgeoned their way to something, right?
Yeah.
And you need to be more creative and sensitive and flexible nowadays
Oh, you do.
and pivot super fast. You have to.
Yeah.
And that's why it is what it is. Let's
Exactly.
now use it. Let's use what is available to transform. I'm going to go back to the earlier question about, what happens when they push back on me as a coach. I love it. When my boys, 3 girls first, then 2 boys, 5 kids, when I was telling them, look, you're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to succeed, da, da, da. And they would say, no, Dad, I'm going to do it this way. I'd go, whoa.
Yeah.
He finally has his own voice.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
Sure.
It was a beautiful moment. And then later on, the older brother says to the younger one, Dad likes it when you push back.
Yes.
Just go ahead. Dad likes it.
You're right.
Right. I do. That's a sign of
growth,
independent thinking, making your own mark. Go for it. Test it out.
And then before they lash out, maybe they'll lash out once, right? And then at some point you'll take that lash out, like, you know what, I'm gonna outsmart this person. So what it's almost like they clean your room before you ask, and that's something small, right? But like, okay, you know what, I'm getting ragged on every single week, so one day they're gonna walk in there and it's gonna be done, and then you're gonna walk upstairs and you're gonna be like, well, damn, I was gonna get on you about that, but like you already, I don't have nothing to say, and they could be lounging with headphones on, and you're just like, nah, you ain't saying that to me, not today, because it's already done. Right. So to your point, like, you start outsmarting the person, like you start getting a laundry list. And I encourage people to do this on any level. Anything that could trip you up that you're thinking of, that somebody could be, in charge of you about, be like, I'm going to do a laundry list of the 5 or 6 things that I think this person's going to do. And I'm going to beat them to it before they ask me to it. And then I'm going to give them that, like, either A, they're going to see it and it's done already, or C, they're going to ask me, like, bro, this. And they're going to be like, well, damn.
That was good. I'm going to bring that up with this last boy. I love that one.
Hey, I didn't say I practice what I preach all the time, but it's got, that's how I think now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And that's why, as entrepreneurs, business startup guys, we have to be, and I read this recently and I think it's accurate. Intelligence is an IQ. Intelligence isn't even EQ. It was somewhere. Intelligence is self-cognition, meaning self-awareness of what you're thinking and why you're thinking it.
Yeah.
So that ultimately you become that much more evolved with no external pressure required to do so. Yeah. So intelligence is that self-improvement that comes from awareness.
Yeah.
And you nailed it. And so as business owners and startup guys, we're constantly having to evolve.
Of course.
Right? And sometimes it's competition forcing us.
Oh my God.
Sometimes customers telling us and yelling at us. But if we can be continuously improving, which is the theme of the last few minutes, I think that is the requirement to succeed. And you have to be more flexible now than in the past.
Yeah, and I'll just leave briefly with this because I want to be cognizant of your time. Anybody who thinks that evolution doesn't work, look no farther than what happened to Blockbuster, right? Right, and Netflix, right? When you didn't evolve, right? And Blockbuster was the dominant, video, it was, retailer. And then Netflix, this startup came along, saw a huge hole in the market, offered to sell themselves to Blockbuster because Blockbuster couldn't see streaming, but they could, and put them out of business. And now, so you always have to be forward thinking. These companies and these startups and these things that are coming out, they're thinking 5 years ahead, whereas the regular people who think on a day-to-day basis are just thinking about this particular transaction in front of them.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, I just got back 3 weeks ago from taking 7 of the CEOs to Costa Rica. We had a board meeting with surfboards and strategy. I call it surf and strategy camp.
Yeah, yeah,
It was great. The reason I'm bringing this up is invariably we're mired in the day-to-day minutia and the firefighting that you never have time to really get above the trees to look at the forest and see where we are. And if we don't do that regularly as leaders, owners, we're going to go into a wall and not even see it because we're just fighting.
yes,
And so
yes,
and so it was a week away, and then I had my regular weekly calls with them, and two of the individuals particularly stood out because I said, "Dude, where'd you come up with those three great ideas?" And his answer was, "I got time to think in Costa
yeah,
Rica."
yeah,
Right? So
right.
you're innovating, you're thinking 5 years down the road and whatever. And I said, those are great ideas,
Right.
David. Well done. How'd that come about? He said, I got time to think.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And so we have to be, as business owners, deliberately, uh, after gasping, taking time to put the oxygen mask on, breathing real deep, because we're always
oh
running
yeah.
from one thing to another.
The
Always.
quarterly, yeah, getting the ROI, the investment pitches, the quarterly earnings, the statements, right? It's real, and so I like I said, I haven't been in that space. I'm just a host. I'm never going to dismiss people who create things for real. I just get a chance to talk to the people that do. So
At the same time, let me say something. And this is, I know we're live in public, but dude, you're not just.
appreciate it.
Rashad, you are more than.
Appreciate
You
it.
are providing tremendous service.
Thank you.
You are giving hope and advice and real life examples from people who are on your show
Thank you.
that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't taken the guts to start it.
Yeah,
So don't even think of it that way.
I very much
I would
appreciate it.
recommend you don't.
I
Okay.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, where can people find you, your story, and your coaching services? Because you don't need me, but I always like to ask people that for the purpose of the show.
I love at this age and stage in giving. It's more fun to be Father Christmas now, right?
Beautiful.
So yeah, my website, there's a free book that they can download, listen, read. It's called Think Leadership is Mental,
Yeah.
and I mean it. Yeah, I think you understand that.
Oh
It's
yeah.
free. Go to techceocoach.com. Tech
Wonderful.
TECH techceocoach.com. There's a free book there. Download it. I hope everyone has a chance to see what I mean by what leadership requires in the mental shift. So
It is.
thanks for having me on here, Rashad. You are a good man.
I appreciate it, and likewise as well too. Benoy Tamang, I would love to have a follow up conversation. I wish you all the continued success, and you're the reason why this show exists, to talk to people like yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Take care. Bye bye.
Very appreciative of your time, sir. It's been an honor.